the 2006 fire season. I just want to kind of now talk about today and what we do. Preparedness, again, I don't want to get too much into our budget and stuff like that, but nationally, preparedness budgets have been getting cut. All the money is going to the war and Katrina. Federal monies are kind of getting pulled away. So we've had to deal with that situation this summer, and we'll continue to have to address it. With fire suppression, locally we have an early spring fire season, and then we had a summer season where things dried up. And generally most of the fires around here are really small spots that were started on the side of the road, or accidental debris burning, or illegal debris burning, people burning their leaves and stuff. So we didn't have any real significant wildfires like that in the spring, but we probably responded to somewhere around 30 fires locally, and that's in addition to, I got to mention that the DNR, the Wisconsin DNR, they were one of our cooperators, and so we've got agreements with them to support their suppression off the reservation, and they help support us on the reservation. Our most significant fire was the Big Engine Lake fire, which occurred on July 17th, and this was caused by lightning. And generally most of our fires have been caused by, in the spring especially, are caused by human causes. Kids playing with matches or fireworks or whatever. But this is significant because this occurred in the South Branch area, in an area that was that open oak and pine, and was burned repeatedly back in the late, back pre-settlement. And this started on a tree that got struck up in here, and it actually creeped around and smoldered for like 7 days before we actually spotted it. And we didn't actually see it until it got into this marsh here. But I could talk a lot about this fire and a lot of things that we did on that fire that maybe we might do differently in the future, because we just went in there and we put it out. I mean, that's our rules, or we put fires out. And potentially in the future, as we get better with what we're doing here, we might have been able to use this fire to manage it for some resource benefit, or to learn something from it. And potentially we could have used a road that just wrapped around this way and changed things. Because it really wasn't doing much once it got out of the marsh. It was just creeping around. Ron, if you want to talk about the fuels program accomplishments.
Fuels program accomplishments for this year so far: Middle Village, 200 acres of WUI; Keshena, 35; Neopet, 10, 15.
And those are pretty much just burning the fields before the kids get out there and light them off. So,
in cooperation with each one of those fire departments that are listed here, they're usually on site and helping. That's where good cooperation, early start. Wildlife burns, we did 25 acres of wildlife burns. We want to double that. That's our goal. Double it.
Are you on your wildlife burns targeting any vegetation in particular, or are you just maintaining openings?
Currently just maintaining it as an opening. The potential for those to be, like prairie or whatever.
Grasses.
In the future, that would be great. But right now, just retain them as opening. Shelterwood, as the photos you're seeing from the airplane, Shelterwood burns were 25. That was 25 acres. Shelterwood site prep and potential natural regeneration. Here's a wildlife burn right here that we did on the forest. It's just your openings on the forest that there's not a lot of them. So we want to retain what we do have. They are beneficial for animals, wildlife. Like I said, plants, if you want to go that route with them. But that's just about it. When we burn, we have certain windows we can burn in. We have go and no-go checklists, the wind, the relative humidity, everything's got to be according to your plan, or you can't go with it. So it's not like we look on the map and say, let's go burn this today. It's not that simple. You have a little more planning than that. Here's the same burn, I think, or another wildlife burn. So you can see all local. All of the guys that are on these burns are full-time employees at the fire or local ADs. Here's a wolf track. We set up our burn. We put in our control line, and the next morning went back to burn it, and there's a wolf track right in the. So the wildlife units are doing their job. This is a wildlife unit we burned. It's sitting in pretty heavily encroached with smaller timber. There's sumac in there, there's maple, red maple. But we burned it, and this is 1 month, I believe, after. So you can see some of it's not leaking out in there. That was our goal, was to set those back and keep them open. So we're going to have to keep on these ones that have a lot of that are being closed up. We'll have to burn more frequent. Again, here's our burn unit, the shelter would burn before we did it, and we're just starting it. Again, it's kind of just from the northwest, sort of looking in. But again, here's the regeneration cut, the shelter wood, and that's at 1 tree an acre right there. This is like 40% ground closure here. This is, I don't know if this was managed yet or not. And this is an Aspen Clear Cut. You can see the more pine management back here in the shelter wood system. And again, here's the cedar strip cuts, but some more photos. And here it is again from the patrol plane, looking down at our burn. Again, wind is this way, obviously, and again, backing the fire. You kind of want to keep this straight. You're backing the fire, and then you flank it along the road. We put lines around each tree. We protected each tree so it wouldn't get scarred or scorched. And that picture there. You want to do this part?
Yeah. Well, and kind of just related to these last pictures, and some of the stuff that really stands out to me is how mechanized our management has become. We can do a lot of work out there. And then with this picture, these guys we recognize that it's important that we didn't kill any more trees. But potentially, I mean, there is an aspect of mortality that's going to have to be acceptable when it comes to burning. So what that level is going to be for the other, the decision makers to be making. But if we start getting into some of these other, maybe these maybe it's going to be a modified type of a shelter wood, where we start putting fire in at different times rather than getting in and actually cleaning up a failure. There's going to be a level of mortality, and how we handle that is going to be an important decision. This is something that I think is really important. It's part of the program. Is the part of the reason why a tribe is encouraged to take on a fire management program or a forest management program like we have here is because of what it brings to the community, what kind of economic benefit it provides. And I was pretty much just focusing on, besides our employee, the people we have working permanently, we bring in those ADs, those emergency firefighters. They're on call, and this summer they've, this was as of now. There's a crew out. A few people are still out right now, and there's still potentially some burning that we'll do this fall. But they've earned $130,000, and that's just these primarily Menominee enrolled members. And this was locally doing fire suppression, doing prescribed burning, and going out west and supporting that national fire situation. And they've been to Oklahoma, Michigan, Minnesota, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and I don't know, maybe even other ones, some of these other. So basically all over the West we've had representation. And we actually helped provide a lot of opportunities to get people out from the state of Wisconsin. Because when we send people out, we'll put them on a crew, and that's made up of BIA, other tribes, Menominee, Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, the state. So we all come together and form these 20 people crews that go out and fight the fires and go out to hurricanes or whatever. But we provided almost, there's been 6 crews that have gone out. All but one crew we provided firefighters for, and for most of them we provided at least 5 people. So it's pretty significant. And as we build a program up, there'll be more opportunities. Someday I'd like to see us send out a Menominee fire crew, and I think that would be a good goal to go for. There's a lot of the crews out west and stuff. A lot of the tribes, they have their own crews. How we plan on doing better. I think it's always important to see where you're at, and we're trying to do better by starting our planning now, getting going as early as we can, getting brought into the process of developing prescriptions, and start burning as early in the spring as possible. And looking at burning larger units, that makes it less complex the bigger you get, believe it or not. Using existing roads and natural fuel breaks like swamps and lakes, and start treating hazard fuels in Jackson Creek. Jackson Creek is our most fire hazardous area. Continue to improve our relationship with our cooperators, incorporating timber harvest into fuels projects, monitoring fire effects. We've got our Student Conservation Association crew doing fire monitoring plots where they get out and they actually measure how many trees are out there and what the fire, we call it the fuel load, is. Continue public outreach and education. And I strongly believe without the public support and understanding, we're not going to succeed with this program. And then where do we go from here? Fire management plan revision, that's basically our direction. It's time to revise that plan, and it's a good time to do that because we're revising the forest management plan right now. Our preparedness program, we need to continue to build that program and strengthen that program. It's the foundation of our program, so that's where we're going to continue to build that, and then start somewhere with demonstration projects, building on our small successes that we had this summer. And in education, it's It's important that we continue to educate ourselves, the community, and our cooperators. And I know this is a real long quote, but it's one of my favorites. And then we're going to wrap this up real soon here. What matters is which fire regime is best on a site-by-site basis. What matters is finding a story to allow us to make those judgments, not because we want to restore a past, but because we want to reclaim a future. In fact, the story we need already exists. It's the oldest of all human fire stories, the one found in every culture in which we acquired, trapped, or stole fire as our own. The story is that fire is perhaps our defining ecological trait. It is what we do that no other creature does. It appears to be our job and destiny to see that it is used properly in the world, not to extinguish it, not to burn everything in sight, but to somehow get the right mix of fire in the world for both our interests and those of others. So with that, I truly thank you for coming, and if you have any questions you want to, if you can stay around or come join us this evening, and we'll have a little bit more time to discuss things. But you can come look at, we got some handouts up here that people can take. Just some stuff we wanted to get out there. My card's over there. If you want to talk about fire anytime, I'm willing to talk about fire. And then we also have a brochure for any people that might be interested in joining the fire program. And so with that, thank you. Any questions? Yes.
I've never seen fire to in substitution of using chemicals like herbicides on that. Is that a possibility ever? Because I just disagree with using herbicides on our boards.
I think we've already done that with those shelterwood burns. We did do that. That's one of the reasons we went after some of those shelterwoods, were because of they couldn't use chemicals, couldn't use herbicide. But I mean, it depends on how much we can actually burn, and we're still in the development of our program, so we probably couldn't keep up with what the amount of acres that they spray right now. But it's definitely something that we can help reduce the need as much. So. Cooper.
I got a question. That use of chemicals, you set yourself up for a because you only have a limited time to see the bird, so you're actually going to push your prescriptions and whatnot back to a combination of both uses.
Yeah.
Benefit for us, I don't think by just strictly using fire.
Yeah, I don't think we're.
Also making food possibly.
Yeah, we don't. He's just kind of commenting that we don't always have the window to burn, and so you might set yourself up for creating another type of backlog of untreated areas because you're relying strictly on that one tool. So I don't. It's not going to be the answer right now, and unless we can do a lot more burning, we're not there yet. Any question back there?
Just the definition of what the hazardous fuels were or are?
Hazardous fuels are like the slash, the limbs and the branches.
The natural stuff that's making a hazard.
Yeah, it's the trees and the stuff on the ground that burn and create the hazard. It's not hazmat like bad chemical stuff. It's just our way of, that's how we refer to what burns. Chris? Hope so. I think so.
I think they did a survival survey on those ones that did in the burn. According to the forest development forester, they were doing all right. Those particular trees in this photo.
Yes.
When you start dealing with fire, especially on the Indian reservation in Waukau Indians, sometimes you gotta kind of thinking about the spiritual sense, of the Indians, how we ask, we ask the spirits of the wind and of the rain and the fire, you know, and the plants and animals to be aware of this. And then while we're doing it, to help us and to help the wind so it wouldn't be so strong, you know, and if we need a little bit of rain, you know, we gotta ask the spirits to put a rain. Because sometimes if we don't do all this together, sometimes, you know, they can make it really harmful for us, you know. Sometimes they could make a disease come in, you know, and a lot of people will be sick. If everything don't get just right, you know. We don't go on and ask the spirits to help us, the spirits, you know, the wind and the rain and the fire, and then the trees and plants and animals. Because sometimes if you don't do that right, and things don't go right, you know, then the spirits sometimes can work against us, you know. Especially like on reservations and all that. Some people say hey, but sometimes, you know, it does. So I think you have to take that into effect too. By maybe working closely with the historical development.
Yeah, I think that what I'm seeing with what fire and cultural, the cultural aspect of fire is really very strong, and it's going to require that we do work, especially as we get into the fire history study that we're doing with Penn State. We really need to bring in that, you know, historic preservation, because it's linked. It's directly linked to what was going on culturally, historically.
Jeremy, you mentioned fire management plan getting updated before with the FMP. Where's the FMP update at now, and are you guys, besides the fire management plan, the forest management plan, is fire a part of that work group that's working on the FMP, and are you going to build in some of your goals with silviculture into the forest management plan right now, and it's being revised?
Yes to most of those, and where the forest management plan is, I believe we're meeting next week. We're starting to get back started on that, and I think we recognize that that's our direction. You know, the fire management plan, the information feeds into the forest management plan. The forest management plan kind of gets its direction from my RMP, and there is everything's connected there. But yes, I'm part of that group. All right. Thanks. We'll be around. You guys want to ask us any more questions?